Hey everybody, it's Jason.
And Rexanne.
We are fireproofing your shades of praying marriage stuff. I don't know. I'm happy that we got new lights though. Cause I look.
Well, back up.
Am I?
Fireproof your marriage. 50 Shades of Grey. Pray. I messed it up too.
See,
can we have a do-over? I need a do-over.
We need one of those. Take two.
Well, I think we'd be on 3 or 4 by now.
Hey everybody, it's Jason.
Rexanne.
We're fireproofing your marriage, moving into the 50 Shades of Prey. We are, what are we? 8 days? 9 days?
8.
8 or 9 days. 8 days. 8 days away from out of here. Gone.
Yeah, but not out of
I like that.
Oh, we will have different scenery. Well, we have one more video, and then we'll have different scenery.
One more video. Oh, we'll be here one more time.
We'll do next Monday night, and then we'll have the last
we're going
in the tropics.
On a jet plane. Don't know. And then it'll be like tropical kind of stuff, you know.
And for those of you who don't know, because we usually talk about that at the end of the video, I guess that's good. We can do that first. We leave in 8 days for our month-long mission trip to the Dominican Republic for our ministry, Grace International Outreach. And I have been bogged down in clothes, donated clothes for these kids all day. And it's really starting to look like a
thrift
store, maybe even a flea market, because it's pretty crazy.
Because last time we went, we took one giant suitcase packed full of clothes, and then another box packed full of clothes, and
it was like 100 pounds.
Yeah, so like 100 pounds of clothes for these little guys and girls in the Dominican Republic. If you check our website, you can see, you know, there's a couple of naked kids on there.
They need clothes.
And so we have to put clothes on them. So that's kind of what we're doing.
That's true, though. I mean, it is true.
But it's something that's easy for us to do. You know, people, for some strange reason, people will give you a pile of clothes. But man, getting $10 out of somebody's like, it's like.
That's true, though. And, you know, we do a lot more than just feed them. We'll just get this out of the way right up front. We do more than just put clothes on them. We feed them. This time we're going to do vacation Bible school activities. We are starting a scholarship program because teenage pregnancy is really, really crazy down there. And I'm talking about 14-year-old girls because they look at prostitution as a way to earn money to bring into their family. So it's crazy. So we're going to start a scholarship program to encourage them to do other things. What am I leaving out? Oh, God always leads us to do some kind of construction or.
I mean, we've built houses, we've repaired
bathrooms.
But
we didn't go down there with a plan to do that. That was God's plan, and He always guides us on into our trip as to what we're going to do while we're there, which is really, really, it makes it fun. You know, it is completely out of our hands. We just follow God's lead.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, it's like, hey, as long as you guys are there, how about you build a house? Well,
you know,
okay.
there is maybe no greater joy than finding out,
well, you
can't set your tea glass there. There is no greater blessing than to find out God is using you to answer somebody else's prayer. And that was the case in the woman whose house had burnt down from fire. And
my wife's a redneck. She said burnt down.
Burnt down. You're interrupting my train of thought. Anyway, the church women had been praying that God would send somebody to help her rebuild her house, and we just happened to be those people.
Right, and we didn't even know it was going to happen. So anyway.
Nope. Anyway. Okay, so tonight we're talking about headship.
Oh, I think that's great because
leadership.
Because as Rexanne had mentioned, teenage pregnancy is a huge problem in the Dominican Republic, and my observation is, I mean, we can back up and be very general about this, but my belief is that most every problem that you're going to have in your life is a problem of headship, a problem of leadership, and that's whether you're looking at, you know, the lives of impoverished people, or whether you're looking at business, or whether you're looking at problems within your marriage or problems in your personal life, it's almost always a problem of headship, a problem of leadership. You're either not being the leader that you're supposed to be, or you're not following the leader that you're supposed to be following.
And that would be submission,
Right.
which most women don't like. And I have to tell you, I was there. There was a time.
Well, I think the whole 50 Shades of Grey thing has opened up submission in a whole new. I think we can appeal to a different group of people.
Yeah, okay, but this is a completely different kind of submission, and this is a very rewarding submission if you open yourself up to doing it right, i.e. God's design for marriage. I used to have a problem with that word. I know, shocker, right? Because a lot of women have a problem with that word, and I'm going to tell you why. The feminist movement killed it for us. It took us so far away from what God wanted for us as women. And I'm not knocking women who work. I've been there. I've done that. I know how hard it is to do that and be the wife and the mother that God wants you to be. You know, our families are our most important thing as a woman. And when we start taking away from that and doing things outside the home that leave us very little time to do the things we need to do for our families, that's when we get into trouble. And that's what the feminist movement did. I mean, it did some good things. It did some good things, but it really took us far away to the left of where God wants women and their roles in the families to be. And so submission became a dirty word. And when I didn't like that word, honestly, it was because I didn't have a leader in my household. And that's a very difficult marriage when the husband is not being that spiritual leader. And, you can't do it one day and not the next. I mean, it's a consistent thing. And when your husband is leading the right way by God's design in marriage, the wife will have a lot easier time doing her role, which is being submissive.
You smell that?
No.
My wife is awesome. She puts she puts the lavender in my drawers, not my drawers, but the place where I keep my clean clothes, and it smells great.
I know. I am great. Thank you. You smell good too.
I know. Awesome.
Anyway, so I want us to, if you're listening and watching this, I want you to really open yourself up to understanding what it means, if you're a husband, to lead, and if you're a wife, to be submissive. Do you know what marriage is a picture of? In the Bible. Think Bible.
Oh, what is marriage a picture of in the Bible?
You want me to tell you?
What did they call it when Jesus got beat with that whip?
Lashing?
Scourge.
Scourge.
Is that what marriage
My
is?
goodness, we're not playing. I'm being serious. It's a picture of Christ and the church.
Yes, it is.
His bride. So when you take it and look at marriage in that context, it gets a lot easier to understand what our jobs are as a husband and a wife, and how we're supposed to interact together, and what we're supposed to do with our marriage. What is possible. It's our marriage can do so much more than just for the two of us. And if we think about the current state of our marriage, and I want you to think about that, does the current state of your marriage accurately reflect Christ's marriage to his church? That's serious self-evaluation.
What is it? What's the little thing that circulated on Facebook not long ago about if you were arrested for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the same thing applies when you evaluate your marriage. When you walk around, inside and outside of your home, especially if you have children living in your home, because how you behave says so much more about your life than anything that you could ever possibly say about your life. So when you're walking in the world, when you're out with your wife, or not even when you're out with your spouse, but when you're out there in the world interacting with the people that you work with or whatever, do these people get evidence from you that would suggest that you have a God-centered marriage, that you as a man are being the spiritual leader of your home, and that you understand stewardship and discipleship and how to follow Christ? Could people pick up on that based on how you conduct yourself away from your spouse? Because we've talked about that before. We've talked about, don't ever take the opportunity to belittle your wife. And I know one of the favorite things for guys to do when they get together is tell jokes and stories about, how difficult it is to live with their wife or whatever. When you do that, even if it's true, but especially if it's not true, when you engage in that's what the Bible refers to as coarse joking, right? When you engage in that, really what that does is that steals the light from your life, and that lets everybody, if you tell a joke about, my wife is hard to get along with, or she's this or she's that, somebody's gonna go, I knew that marriage stuff was just fun. There's no reason for me to get married. I'm not ever gonna put myself in that position.
Well, even if it's true, you can't say it. You're not supposed to say it. Because you're just making, words are powerful.
Right.
And if I'm not saying, don't speak the truth. That's what I'm saying.
Don't speak the truth.
Don't tell yourself. Okay, if your spouse, if your husband is I don't know, give me something. I'm drawing a blank. What's a common thing?
Awesome.
Okay, if
your husband is awesome.
that doesn't work for this.
Oh.
Okay, if your husband lays around and watches the TV a lot, don't talk all the time about what a lazy bum he is.
So when
because the more you reinforce that idea in your mind, the less you're going to be able to see him through Jesus' eyes.
Well, God is described as the one who calls that which is not as though it were, right? And that's a lesson for us. And you can look at the story of Lazarus. Jesus and the disciples, they were what was it? Several days journey away, and they get news that Lazarus has died. Jesus doesn't, number one, he doesn't get in any big hurry. He's just like, I got some stuff to do, and when we get done, we'll go and take care of that. And he never referred to Lazarus as being dead. He said, we have to go, for our brother Lazarus has fallen asleep. And everybody's going, what do you mean? He's dead. And Jesus never, another time when the woman's daughter died, and Jesus said, well, come on, go with me, and we'll take care of it. And the woman said, well, yeah, but she's dead. And he said, no. Don't fear. The whole time, the world, the people around him are calling things as they see them, right? They're saying, my daughter is dead. Our friend is dead. My husband is lazy. My wife is a whatever. They are using their five senses to describe the world. And what we're told to do is to do exactly the opposite. We are supposed to speak into our life as the things that we want to see from it, right? And if you think about your words being seed, okay, and there's numerous examples in the Bible of your words being defined as seeds, and saying that when we speak, it's though we're casting seed into the ground. So if you believe that for a moment, think about this. Go, okay, well let's play what if. What if that were true? If it's true that the very words that come out of your mouth are seeds being cast into the ground of your life, do you think you would be better off casting seeds of dispersion into your life? Do you think you'd be better off casting seeds of doubt into your life, or seeds of negativity into your life, even though that's what you might see and that's what you might hear And that's what you might be feeling in your relationship. But don't speak that into your life. Speak life and speak health and speak positively about your spouse, and people are going, that's some of that positive stuff.
But if you will look in your Bible, it's true. I mean, that is exactly how Jesus did, and he is supposed to be our example.
Well, you can go all the way back to the beginning. In the beginning, when there was nothing, did God look out into the nothingness and go, well, there's not much there. We ain't got much to work with here. What do we got? What are we going to do? What are we going to do with this nothing? Or did he go, you know what we need? We need to be able to see what's going on. We need light.
Right.
We need light.
That is such a great example. Okay, so God didn't go, okay, there's the darkness. Right. Let's create some light. No. Okay, here's an exercise. And I have recommended this for quite a while. And it is completely in line with what we're saying, which is completely in line with the Bible.
My hair looks awesome tonight. I got a lot of alfalfa things going on, but
what was I saying? Pray. Don't pray and speak the things that you see about your spouse. Pray and thank God for the things that you will see, the things that God is going to do in your spouse's life. So if you have a husband right now who lays around and watches a lot of TV, thank God for a husband who is up and being active and taking part of things with the family. And see where I'm going with this?
Well, we've talked about this before about, making a list, a gratitude list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think that probably one of our biggest problems, I'm using our and we a lot more. One of our biggest problems is that we get into the habit of complaining to God, and Jesus said, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can say to that mulberry bush, move, and it will be planted in the sea. Or probably the one that people are more familiar with is, you can speak to that mountain and it will move, or it will be cast into the sea. When you don't have a reference point for what you want, and you're only focused on what it is that you don't want, so as a man thinketh, so shall he be. Right? So you have to think about the things that you have in your life that you enjoy and that you want, and that you want more of those. Look at the blessings that God has already given you and praise him for those, so that those might be received in your life more abundantly. It is the way that I think we should look at it. Guys, there's so many different ways that you can approach this. Even if you look at it from a secular perspective, there's tons and tons of self-help books out there that tell you, focus on what it is that you want and not what it is that you don't want, because that's really, we get what we think of most often. We attract that which we're focused on, which I think is really true, because the people that you have, the people that you spend time with, the people that you have in your life, are people that you have attracted into your life because of your thoughts and because of your behaviors and things like that. So if you look at changing situations in your life, look at how you're speaking to your life, and look at what your prayer life is. Are you complaining to God about your mountain, or are you speaking to your mountain about your God?
True.
Is how that goes.
Okay, so back to Christ and the church. So Christ gave himself for his bride. So likewise, we're to fully give ourselves to our spouse. So what does that mean to you?
Well,
fully give.
We've talked about, was it last week when we did the
intimacy,
all the different
the pyramid,
right? All the different pyramid stuff. When it talks about becoming one, I think that's a hard concept for people to understand, because it violates our human nature, our desire for individuality. Our identity. Your identity. You've spent your entire life forming this concept of who you are. And now you're telling me that when I get married, I have to completely do away with the concept of who I am, and I have to, what does that mean to become one? Well, what that means to me is that you can no longer think of yourself first. It has to always be a we or an us. You have to always consider what you're doing, even down to the thought level. Consider what you're doing with as a we instead of a me. I mean, that's, I don't know if that.
Well, no, it is, and a lot of people still try to they go overboard in trying to maintain the I. Well, I need this time to myself, or I need, and then we get fixated on the I and we lose focus of the we. And I'm not saying that you don't need a little you time. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying don't be focused on the I all the time. As a matter of fact, don't be focused on the I most of the time.
Or don't use me time as an escape from your spouse, because that's one of the things that is prevalent in male culture today, and maybe even female culture today. But guys are like, oh, we're gonna, I'm gonna go hunting or fishing or whatever you
or the
do.
Man cave,
right? As a place to go to escape. I'm free from the ball and chain for the weekend or whatever.
That's a bad way to think about it, by the way. Don't use those words. Ball and chain. Don't do it. That's speaking about that thing that you're seeing with your eyes, which probably isn't even accurate. And I'm just going to be a woman here and throw it out. If she is, maybe you're doing something really, really wrong, like not being the leader.
Well, I mean,
not that justifies her, to be like.
My leader came to break me free from bondage. So the last thing I'm going to do is refer to any part of my life as something
True.
like a ball and chain or whatever, because I mean, here's the thing, Christian people who are out there listening to this, okay? You have been set free from your bondage. So if you find yourself in a situation where you feel confined or restricted or bound up, locked down, whatever you want to say, that's self-imposed. The devil has no more control over your life. When Jesus said he had the keys, that meant that your bonds have been broken. So you can tie yourself up. And I think so many people do that. I'm going to get back to this thing. My wife tells me, you can't point and you can't say you, because it shuts people's ears off.
I did. I said that yesterday, and that means he's listening.
I'm going to go like this. We spend so much of our time trying to find an excuse for why we're not moving forward that we actually allow ourselves to tie ourselves up, to lock ourselves down. Don't do that. I mean, so the idea of giving yourself fully to your spouse and developing this idea of usness and oneness and all this stuff, that can only make your life better.
True. So true. Okay, so my third point is Christ had our best interest in mind, and we should also have the best interest of our spouse and our marriage in mind. I came up with this stuff. Now you elaborate.
Well, wasn't that just what I was talking about? I mean, when you...
Yeah, but this is really simplified and really straightforward. Best interest of your spouse and marriage. That can sound kind of, wow, to bring back a term from way back, heavy.
Heavy.
To always have the best interest of your spouse and your marriage. That, again, takes the me out of it and focuses on the we. Because I can promise you are going to benefit from the best interest of your spouse, making sure that you have what's in the best interest of your spouse and your marriage in mind all the time. And that has to be cultivated. That's not natural for us, I don't think.
Well, but that's what we're. This may turn into deeper theological stuff. That's what we were put here for, okay? Because the Bible teaches us that it's really God's responsibility in our covenant to take care of the individual. Okay? We are here to take care of each other. And really, this is going to sound odd, I know, but if you will work diligently to shift your focus from me to we, amazingly, the individual needs get taken care of.
Right. Yeah, all the time. Okay, so I have a list.
I told you.
Are you
she was going to. She started out, she was like, I don't even know what we're going to do. This leadership, headship. She's like, I got nothing.
Okay, wait.
I got nothing.
I
got nothing.
What kind of guidance can we offer if we don't have a list of things to like be aware of or work on? Or okay, so this list is how a husband can love his wife as Christ loved the church. Now, there may be some guys that are going, why is this all about what the husband has to do?
Well, we're talking about leadership.
Leadership. Okay, so number one is a husband should desire to honor God in his marriage.
Well, right, because in order to be a leader, you must first become a follower.
True, and we talked about this last week, you know, the whole pyramid thing that you described. The spiritual part of intimacy has to be at the top so it can filter down to all the other levels, and it all starts with your relationship with God, and that's such a great way to put it. You cannot be a leader until you know how to be a follower.
We don't even know how to properly love. We get this humanism, worldly idea of what love means, and that's why the divorce rate is pivoting back and forth between 50%. You know, what was it I read a couple of days ago, that 56%, so we've crossed over the halfway mark. 56% of the children today are being raised in single parent households. Well, that's because of two factors. One factor would be divorce, and the other factor would be single mothers. But you know, children who are coming from relationships where there was no marriage to begin with. But if you don't know how to love, then it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, for you to love another person, love your spouse, love yourself, love your children. I mean, all these things, that trickle down idea is going to be lost because you're not being filled with love to begin with. So once you submit to the love of Christ and understand it, the Holy Spirit will teach you things about love that you never even knew you didn't know. And then it is through that overflow that you can then share that with other people.
Okay, so number two, a husband can love his wife as Christ loved the church. How a husband can love his wife as Christ loved the church. He has to desire to be used by God.
God has a plan for everybody. And it was years that I was like, whatever, there is no plan to this. We're just here to do what it is that we do. And sometimes we hit and sometimes we miss, and whatever. God has a plan for every single person. I mean, you were put here for a specific reason. And if you step up and you live in obedience and you are doing the things that God is directing you to do, you can experience wonderful, wonderful things in life. And if you're not, you're the one who's missing out, because God has all the time in the world, and he'll find someone else to step in and fill the shoes where you failed, which is wonderful, because the pressure then, is really off of you to succeed. You're not necessarily called to solve all the problems of the world. You're just called to be obedient and to do the things that God wants you to do. And if you fail, and you will, we all do to some degree or another, God has a plan for that as well. So my point in that whole thing is to be used by God. I mean, that in our culture, in our vernacular, the whole concept of, well, he's just using you has a negative connotation to it. People are like, I don't want to be used. That's such a, ooh, now I've been used, and I'm no longer new, and I don't have that new me smell anymore. I kind of smell like a used me. The whole idea of being used by God is so amazing, because there is no better smell than that used by God smell. Because I mean, does that make sense?
You don't know joy until you have allowed yourself to be completely used by God.
Right. I mean, it's just awesome when you wake up in the morning and you go, I don't know what today is going to bring, but I know it's going to be awesome.
Okay, well, it's not always this way. I want to remind you, we've not always been these people. And somebody said on Facebook today.
Who was this person?
I don't remember, but I remember what picture. I had posted a picture of all this crazy clothes mess that I had going, and that was the beginning, so it didn't look really crazy. It was all neatly stacked. But he said how much he admired the faith that I have, and that he wished I could help him have that faith too. And we have not. It's not always been. It is. I can say it is easy for me now to have that faith, but it's because I've nurtured that, and it goes completely against most of what is going on around us, what is going on, what we have been most of our life. And, we can be Christians and be completely unwilling to, walk that path that God has for us. And so we have not always been this way. As a matter of fact, our greatest growth has occurred over the last year, and I would not go back for anything.
I think if you're doing it right, though,
yeah,
that should always be your story.
Yeah.
The last year should always be the greatest growth experience in your life, and you should be like, I've never felt closer to God than I have today. You know what I mean?
Yep, you're right. I could not go back to that. The unpeaceful feeling and the fleeting happiness, and you really have to shut out the world, and you have to be the oddball out. I can tell you there are probably a lot of people that don't like me these days because, I'm committed to doing this, and I'm not going to do things that compromise that, and I'm not going to list them because that'll just give people more of a reason to not like me. Then they won't listen to anything I say.
In the mulberry bush parable, Jesus said that because the disciples had come to him and said, Lord, increase our faith. And faith is, I think probably faith is one of the most misunderstood aspects of being a Christian. And people are like, oh, you got to increase. I got to increase my faith. I wish I had more faith. We have a wonderful, wonderful man who teaches our Tuesday night Bible study class. And back in November, his wife had a problem with her heart and they wound up having to do emergency surgery on her. And it was like 4, 6, or 8 bypasses and stuff they had to do. I mean, it was really a serious thing. And last week, he sent me a text message. His wife had gone back for her, 90-day checkup or something, right? Wouldn't that be about?
It's more than that. It's November. I think it's November.
Okay. So anyway, she had gone back to see the doctor that she went to see last week. Hadn't seen her for many, many months. And he ran some tests and he did some things. And he said, and you hear these things all the time, and how much of it registers in your heart, I don't know. But this doctor says, I don't understand it. You have a perfect heart. You have the heart of a 25-year-old woman. Well, she's not anywhere near 25 years old. And I read that and I was like, yes. And Rexanne read it and she's like, yes. And we called Rexanne's daughter in to read it, and Ashley's what, 23, 22? Called her in to read it, and she looked at it and went, yeah, what about it? And Rexanne's like, well, what do you mean? Aren't you excited? Doesn't that make you excited? She's like, yeah, I believe that.
She says, does that, like, why? Like, that was weird, because that's what I believe. Isn't that what I was supposed to believe?
So and my point in this is the difference. If you're born again, there is no difference between your faith and the faith that Jesus had, because when you are reborn into the Spirit, you receive the faith of God. Not a little piece of it, but the faith, a full measure, is poured out for you. What happens is unbelief creeps into your life. It's not that you lack faith, it's that you have this overarching unbelief that is getting in your way. Ashley, when she read the thing about our pastor friend's wife, her faith in healing, her faith in that is so strong, and I'm misusing the term. Her unbelief is so non-existent that she's just like, yeah, I would have actually been surprised if it hadn't happened. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what she
a great
is
way
on
to
that.
be, though.
But my point in this is, you have that same raising from the dead power living inside you. So when you look at your situations and your relationships and the things that are going on in your day, understand that same power that brought Lazarus out of that hole, that brought Jesus back from the dead, that can cause that mountain to be cast into the sea, is living inside of you. I think that's an awesome thing. If people could just understand that, it's just a few little simple things. One, you are an adopted son of God. Or daughter. You have the power and authority to stand boldly before the throne of God, and God has given you a list of promises and things that He will do for you, and you have the unwavering faith of God living inside. I mean, if we could ever embrace the full totality of that package of the potential that's involved there, woo, what else you got?
Well, we got kind of distracted from our list.
I know. I should just drink my tea and let you go with your list.
For a husband to love his wife as Christ loved the church, he should be selfless. And to put that into perspective, I mean, consider how selfless Jesus was. I mean, He came and lived and suffered and died for us. And, He didn't have to. I mean, His existence didn't depend on that whatsoever. I mean, He gave us something that, we cannot even begin to repay. And to be that selfless, I mean, that's a tall order, but you can do it. I mean, it doesn't mean you might not wobble or fall, but if you fall, get back up and say, okay, I know, this will impress her, I know that was completely selfish. That was completely selfish of me. You'll get major points for that. Okay, lead by example.
Lead by example is such great advice, not necessarily solely for your relationship with your spouse, but with your children, with the people that are out there in the world. I mean, it is your Christian walk that is going to influence more people than anything that you could possibly say to them. That does not mean that you're not supposed to witness and testify, because you are, but it is your walk that is going to impress people and convert people and convince people. Because Rexanne and I were talking about this the other day. I mean, I have a checkered past. There's no question about that. And
a great testimony.
And there are still people out there who go, well, if you'll do this, then I'll believe you.
I'll believe in your conversion.
Right. I'll believe in your conversion if I see you doing this. and I'm thankful that these people say this to me, because all that does is reinforce to me, that my walk is important and people are watching me and all that. And I mean, it certainly doesn't scare me or concern me, because, I mean, I am a new person and I don't have any problem with demonstrating that to anyone. But you need to understand that people are watching you when you don't even know that they are. And honestly, human nature, that cold, dark heart that is in most people who are out there, you're the very people who need to be seeing you succeed. And these are the people who are lost and don't know Jesus. The people that need to see you succeeding are the very people that want to see you fail.
Jealousy is a horrible thing. But you know what? Do what you're supposed to do. The whole leading by example. I hear the excuse, well, I'm not going to do what I should do because my husband isn't doing what he's supposed to do.
When you start cleaning up the living room, I'll mow the grass more often.
What kind of sense does that make? Come on. Okay, wait. You first of all, you're responsible for you, and when you show up in heaven, that excuse is not going to fly.
So saying that
God,
woman you gave me, that's not going to work.
No, that's not going to work. Adam got kicked out of the garden.
Lord, that woman you gave me, he couldn't. I mean, you talk about separating yourself from the event. Not only was it not Adam's fault, but it was God's fault, because he gave him this woman that did something bad.
That is a bad idea. Okay.
Think about how the world would be different if, when that snake had shown up, Adam had jumped out and put some ninja moves on it.
Oh, that would make an awesome movie. How the world that could have been. Okay, so anyway, stop worrying about what your spouse is.
He reached out on that tree and just grabbed him and went.
Yeah.
How's it going, honey?
It's been a lot better.
Let me take you out to eat. I know a place that's got way better fruit than this.
I love it. Okay, so lead by example. Don't worry about what your spouse is or isn't doing. Do your part.
So wait a minute. So that's the part when it starts actually being about me. So what you're telling me is that I'm supposed to be me focused when it comes to doing things for other people, but I'm not supposed to be me focused when it comes to I got it.
Okay.
You got to flip the script.
Okay. Don't be distant. Share. And this one is kind of two parts. Share, what you want in life. Share. We talked about this, last week. But more importantly, as a leader in your house, the husband should share what's going on in his life spiritually. Like, what is God teaching you? What revelations have you had?
Let me tell you something about that.
That is deep. And when you include your wife in that, I mean, you
will be amazed sometimes. I'm amazed all the time because I'll be studying a topic, and I'll come in and I'll be all excited because I think I've had this monumental revelation, and it's just going to be something, and my wife is just going to be like, oh my gosh, and I'll come in and say it, and she'll go, yeah, I was just reading it. And I'm like, what? Yep, I was just there. When you get, because I know there are a lot of people, Rexanne talks to a lot of people, and some of these women and sometimes couples that she talks to, yes, some of you out there, she's actually talking to you and him.
Yeah.
But you'll never know which one it is.
I don't give out that information.
But because these women are in men, they'll be like, we are so spiritually far from being on the same page, I don't know what to do. When you get there, when you get to the point where you are both on the same page, it's amazing how God will guide both of you separately toward the same thing. It's just amazing. I mean, people go, oh, I need some evidence of God. There are 30,000 verses in the Bible, and we constantly have, we call it synergy? Mm-hmm. We constantly have things happen. I mean, a week doesn't go by, and sometimes a day doesn't go by where one verse out of the Bible will like, I have a random Bible verse thing that comes up on my phone just to remind me. And it'll pop up some days and I'll be like, oh, look at that. And I'll hand it to her and she'll go, I just wrote the same thing like an hour ago or whatever.
I have that happen on Facebook. I'll put something on there and somebody will go, my preacher just talked about that on Sunday. But you know what? That is God. There's a name for that actually, God winks. It's where God is showing you. It's the proof that you're looking for, that you're on the right path, that you're hearing God and not just some, figment of your imagination that you've come up with. And when you start to notice these, that will come more and more. You will just, it'll be like you've been blind and you suddenly can just see, you can see everything. And I love to get those. Sometimes, we're in Bible study and I'm just sitting over there smiling and shaking my head like.
Sometimes we laugh out loud.
Yeah.
You remember when you were a kid and you get in the pool and you play Marco Polo? You close your eyes and you'd be like, Marco! And you had no clue where your friends were or what direction you need to go until somebody said polo. And that's exactly what we're talking about. I mean, you're out here in this world and God knows that you're going to struggle. God knows that you're going to have doubt. God knows you're going to have distraction. This entire world was created to distract you. And when I say the world, I don't mean the creation that God made. I mean the corruption of that creation is what I refer to about the world. I mean, I love nature and trees and mountains and beaches, and I mean the majesty that God has created is awesome. And the corruption of that is what we're supposed to guard ourselves against. When it says that the only religion that God sees as righteous and pure is to visit and help the widows and orphans in their time of need, and to guard yourself against being polluted, to guard your mind against the pollution of the world. It's not talking about carbon monoxide or whatever. It's talking about to guard yourself from that spiritual layer of corrupted film that exists in this world. When you get to the point where that is creeping in on you, understand that God will always give you a sign. I mean, a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night. All you have to do is look for it.
And there was a time in my life that I didn't see that. I didn't see that guidance, but it's because I wasn't seeking God first, and I wasn't doing the things I needed to do so that would be apparent. I mean, it's not that it wasn't there. I couldn't see it, and I didn't have a clue. Okay, so the next one is lead by encouragement.
You're awesome, babe.
But that is one that is so overlooked, because how simple is it to be encouraging? Think about it. It's really, really simple, but how often do we fail to do it?
There was this one time when Rexanne needed my encouragement, and I was like, I know it's muddy and I know it stinks, but get up there.
Oh, gosh.
We were doing this mud race thing.
We
She was like,
that, yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
No, it was thick, y'all. Y'all. It was like, okay, I have never, ever been through the mud thing, Was this the heels of mud?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we had already crawled under the barbed wire in the nasty, stinkingest mud I've ever smelled.
And it's like this deep.
And
you're
coated,
like, what?
and you're coated in it, okay? Okay, so we'd already done that. We had already trekked in this little, what was it? It was like, it wasn't a creek, it was a trench almost of just water and mud. And then you get into the open and you're like, whew, the mud's over. Not. It's like hills. They've like gone in and dug out these just awful pits and then piled it up into heaps, and it is so wet. And so, I mean, you come up like with a Godzilla leg, because the mud is like a foot thick on you, and you can't lift your leg. I couldn't anyway, because it's so heavy. And that was horrible. And I saw these people going by me, and they were like going around it, and I was like, Why can't we go around it? Jason's like, nope, get up. We're going through this. That was horrible. That was horrible.
You know, that is such a clear picture of how so many people lead their life. I mean, we went to this mud race challenge thing, and we had no intention of winning, you know. And
was there a winner?
Or,
I guess.
You know,
I don't know.
We were just there to
Do it.
to test ourselves and to do it together, and you know,
My goal was to just finish.
team building and all that. But at every obstacle, there was an option to go around it, to take the easy route and to go around it. And I have to tell you this: we didn't successfully negotiate that when you looked at it, you were like, I don't want to do this. I don't know how we're going to do it.
How high was the wall?
Oh
The
gosh,
wall
I mean, it was
like
probably
12 feet. It
well,
was 18 feet, maybe, like, yeah, 18 or 20 feet probably. And I mean, you're looking at this going, there is no way up. You know, I cannot tell you how many times I said, I cannot do this. He's going, yes, you can, guys. I mean, really, you should do something like that with your spouse, because it is such a great team building exercise, and it'll show you what your marriage, you know, what you're really made of. Because if you're we never fought or argued, not once. And now that's not to say sometimes when he was being the drill sergeant telling, run, come on, don't stop, give me this. And I'm like, this is what I'm doing. This is it. But we never got into arguments. You know, we didn't leave there going, man, I really hate you for that or anything. It was great. And I encourage all couples to do that. But seriously, lead by encouragement. And, you know, maybe you need to make a list. Maybe this is a lot to remember. Maybe this is a lot of change. But I tell Jason this, you know, the things that don't come naturally, make a list. And it helps. It helps. It does. It's not, no, there's no shame in having a list. Oh, yeah. Okay. Lead by serving. Take the initiative. Don't be selfish, and think about your desires as part of dying to self.
if you want more love in your life, learn to love more. You know, whatever it is that you want, you have to become that. What does it become? The change that you want to see in your life and all that. And I mean, that is an actual perfect picture of Jesus, because God wanted the hearts of men to change. God wanted men and women. When I say men, I mean all of us. God wanted mankind to turn to Him and to love each other and to love Him and all this stuff. And He tried with the law of Moses and with the cleansing of the earth and all these things, and man still turned toward evil. So instead of trying to impose more rules or to require more work and all this stuff from people, instead of doing that, God became the change that He wanted to see in the world. He wanted man to become this sinless creature of love, and He became that and introduced that into the world. When you want to see, think about the monumental task of introducing pure love to the world. And if you want something in your life, in your marriage, become that which you seek. That's the lesson that I had a guy here the other day, atheist, blow my mind. He says, do you believe that the Bible is a literal handbook for daily life, or is it a bunch of fables and parables and all this stuff? And I said, well, I actually think it's two things. It is a literal handbook for your daily life, and it's also a collection of stories and parables and histories and all this stuff. I said, it's both of those things, and it depends on whether you're reading the words in the book, and that's where you get the story and the history and all that. And if you're reading the the living Word of God. It's where you get the instructions for your daily life. God sent Jesus to this world to introduce love into the world. He became the love that he wanted to see growing in the hearts of men. So if you have something that you want to see growing in your relationship, in your family, become that.
Okay, so the guys probably feel like we've been picking on them because here, my list has been all about how a husband can love his wife as Christ loved the church. But part of this whole headship thing for the husband and switch it around just a little bit. Like where the husband should desire to honor God in his marriage. Well, that one's easy. The wife should do the same thing, and she can do that by being submissive to her husband. She should be selfless, always putting her husband first. She should desire for God to use her. She should share her desires, what God is doing in her life. She should also be submissive by being encouraging to her husband. I mean, really, these are very similar roles, even though they're a little different, but there are some similarities, and there are ways we can take each of these and both the husband and the wife can apply them. And they're really simple. And like I said, you might have to write them down to be able to remember them, to put them into practice. But when you do, and you think about your marriage as that picture of Christ and the church, it really gets so much easier to put these things into action. That's all I've got. I know that I didn't think I had anything, but we've been going for 57 minutes.
Guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Check out our graceinternationaloutreach.org page. There are so many opportunities there for you guys to share in this ministry. I mean, I've said this before. We are all called to go out into all the corners of the world and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and to feed his sheep and to be.
We need to say that really quick because we didn't mention that. We talked about all the things that we actively did. We didn't mention that Jason gets to preach while we're there. So evangelism is huge, and we are ministering to people so that we have an opportunity to show them and share with them about the love of Jesus and what he did for them. So that's something you need to remember. Serving others, it's your way in. It's providing for their physical needs so that you can talk to them about their spiritual needs. And that is, our overall goal in this, and our ministering to them, the ways we minister to them is our way into their life, and to help them in, small ways that give us that connection, so that we can talk about something as intimate as their spiritual life.
And I know that it's impossible for everyone to go into the mission field because, you have jobs that prevent you from doing that. You have family obligations that prevent you from doing it. There's a whole list of reasons, and God knows that, and that's why he moves people who can do it to go and do it. But all of these people, whether you support our mission and ministry or whether you find a different foreign mission to support, please do that, because when you send that little bit of money, and you would just be so blown away by what can be done with $10. I mean, what is we did the math on it to feed, and because we get clothing, I'm pointing over here because we're getting ready to go, and so we're packing stuff up. But when people donate the clothing and stuff, and then we get the food and a little toy, a little trinket for these children, it's like less than $2 to do that. So you can imagine, for $10, we can feed and clothe and put a smile on the face of 5 kids. I mean, so when you look at it like that, and you're like, I can't afford to donate, $1,000 or $500 or whatever. $10 for $10 a month. I mean, it's awesome.
We forget that commandment, but we are all called to give, and it's difficult for me now, especially knowing what I know now. I wish I had known it way back. how can we ask God for blessings when we're not even doing what we were commanded to do by giving to others? We like to hold on to what we have, but it's all God's. It's all God's. And, we should give back to those who need our help. And I wish I had the scripture. I can't even come up with enough of it right now to say it, but I'll include it in the blog.
But we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Share this with somebody, because there is a message in here for you, and there's a message in here for someone else. We know that. We get communication from people all the time, and they're talking about how recordings that we did, weeks, months, and years ago are touching hearts today. So share this stuff, because there's somebody out there who's looking for a word that is in this deal tonight. We want each and every one of you that watches this video to have the very best of your life.
And start today.
Good night.